I remember an event from my youth. It took place in the fall, right after my 14th birthday.
It wasn't long after I began studying at my dream high school.
One of the reasons I chose this high school was the math teacher, a legend of the school and beyond, a brilliant mathematician who was widely respected and admired. The math classes started with logic, reasoning, and problem solving. I loved logic. Logic explained the world to me in a very simple and clear manner. This great, vast, unknown, and mysterious yet terrifying world could be described and understood logically. That's exactly what I needed back then. Logic promised me the tools to understand the world.
Today I would call it a feeling of safety.
In the second, maybe the third class I was called to answer, as the first one from my class, I stood in front of my new classmates, next to my new teacher, a powerful and imposing man with a prominent and thick beard, reminiscent of a boxer in his youth, who, peering at me through the dark lenses of his big, slightly intimidating, and somewhat mysterious glasses, asked me 3 questions. They were all trivial, related to the basics of logic, which I loved and understood. And I didn't answer any of them at all. I couldn't get a word out. Somehow my throat wasn't working. No sound whatsoever came out of it at all. Absolutely no sound. I didn't get what was happening. I silently returned to my seat, completely confused. Overwhelmed by a profound sense of shame and intense anger, I was left in a state of confusion, unable to grasp the reality of what had just occurred. It felt as though everything around me had changed, leaving me bewildered and frustrated as I struggled to make sense of the events that had unfolded. At that moment, my self-esteem hit rock bottom. My whole world collapsed. Why did my body and my nervous system fail me at such a moment? What is wrong with me? Shouldn't my body want and be able to react to stressors in a way that ensures my survival, health, and happiness, so I can build my self-esteem, pursue my dreams, and achieve success? After all, the nervous system I was using back then and still use was developed over millions of years.
And what must have been the number of updates? It has been refined and improved.
Before I could appear in the world, it ensured the survival of some 100,000 generations of my human ancestors.
It must have been effective if I'm here.
It was that nervous system, the same one I had back then and still have, that helped us survive the eruption of the supervolcano Toba, which 74,000 years ago led to several years of volcanic winter and a drop in the human population to about 1,000 individuals worldwide. It helped us survive the Black Death, caused by the plague bacterium, which erupted in Central Asia in the 14th century and made its way to Europe via the Silk Road. It claimed 50 million lives and likely caused the death of half the population of Europe at the time. And a ton of everyday little things, like encounters with predators, hunting, wars, periods of famine, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, floods, droughts, migrations, diseases, pandemics. Our nervous system truly deserves respect and gratitude. We survived all of that.
So he totally messed up on a math question?
The first humans, our ancestors, appeared on Earth about 2 million years ago. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. For my argument, that doesn't really matter. We call them homo erectus because they were the first to adopt an upright body position. They walked and ran like us, had similar sizes and body proportions, although their brains were a bit smaller. They got rid of most of their body hair, learned to use fire, hunt, and gather plants. They could cook and use tools, and they created art. We adopted their way of life. And as far as I know, from my perspective, it hasn't changed at all. Up until the so-called Neolithic revolution, which was about 12,000 years ago, humanity, which had been focused on gathering and hunting, started to practice agriculture and domesticate animals.
We changed from a nomadic lifestyle to a settled one. Only then did the first significant changes occur in our way of life. As a result, we invented private property, social structures, cities, states, and ultra-processed food. What I want to say is that for almost 2 million years, up until the Neolithic Revolution, our nervous systems, or at least their human parts, developed in an almost unchanged environment. But how much is 12,000 compared to 2 million years? If I assume that the beginning of human life on Earth started with the appearance of Homo erectus, and of course that's not the start of the evolution of our nervous systems, since we also have parts inherited from our animal ancestors. But if I imagine 2 million years of nervous system evolution as a single day, if I picture Homo erectus showing up on Earth 24 hours ago, then the first significant change in lifestyle, which was the beginning of agriculture, started just 8.5 minutes ago. Scientists believe that this took place in the Middle East, and that the first farmers arrived in Europe about 7,500 years ago. In my model, that would be 5.5 minutes. The beginning of the next major change, the Industrial Revolution, was just under 12 seconds ago. The emergence of the internet was just 2.4 seconds ago on my clock. So when in such a short time, my nervous system was supposed to adapt to all of this? For 99.4% of the time since the first upright humans appeared on Earth, the nervous system learned to ensure the safety of people who were never alone. They lived in small groups of people they had known since birth. In the natural flow of day and night, in the changing seasons, no keeping track of time, no rushing, no strict schedules, no stressing over deadlines, just constant physical activity, except during rest periods, and in a much simpler setup than we have today, without social pressure on productivity and competitiveness. No kindergartens, schools, big companies, or career tracks. In a world that gives us way fewer stimuli and judgments. It's truly incredible that in today's modern world, to feel safe and secure, we probably still rely on the very same instincts that once helped our ancient ancestors escape from dangerous predators, hunt massive mammoths, survive through famines and droughts, and fight fiercely for their lives. These tools still work today. Is it tough for us to get by because we're stuck using old features? Life's tough for us, even though we've never had better living conditions in all of known history. So can we really use this system effectively in today's world? Is it possible to flexibly use the strategies developed over these millions of years? And if it's possible, how do we learn to adapt them to new, different threats? What is the most significant difference between those 23 hours, 54 minutes, and 30 seconds, and the world we live in? Maybe this is our loneliness. Hunters and gatherers, as far as we know, always lived in small groups. They probably were never alone. They spent their whole lives, day after day and night after night, among people they had known since childhood, in a group, a tribe that had to cooperate to survive. It was very difficult to survive alone back then. We were destined to live in a group. Work, play, rest, all among the same people we've known from birth until death. We didn't respond to the threats of the world alone, but together, whatever happened, we were among the people we grew up with and lived alongside. We faced every threat together. How different that experience must have been compared to remote work. Hours spent alone stuck in traffic on the way to work, reprimands in the boss's office, evaluations from supervisors and teachers, exams, arguments with a partner, and watching Netflix late at night in a lonely bed. Although we can still come together in groups in the face of threats and help each other during disasters, along the way in our evolution, while protecting our individuality, we've lost the support of the group in our daily lives. The amount of stimuli we have to process every day is also increasing. We are constantly bombarded by a barrage of signals that our bodies process through the same channels that were once reserved for dealing with rare, short-lived, and overwhelming life-threatening situations. And in times when we lived in groups, the constant presence of people around us allowed us to experience co-regulation after every threat we faced. Co-regulation, which is regulation with the help of other people, allowed us to stay at an optimal level of arousal. And that's exactly what I was missing when I was first called to answer in the new school.